We are in the middle of the sugya of Ksiva, and we left off with the shaila of electricity, pictures, video cameras, and the like of different shailas. So let's begin like this, Rabbi Sai. The following shaila, and this was really one of the first times that we found such a shaila in such an explicit manner. The shaila came in from Switzerland, where the shaila was asked to Hagoin Reb Shlomo Zalman Zatzal, all the way from Switzerland, in the following way. The Seifrim, those people that are Isaac and Stam, right, in Sifrei Torah, mezuzahs, tefillin and everything else, they found a new mahalach. We're going back, Rabbi Sai, a bunch of years, obviously, but they found a new mahalach of checking specifically Sifrei Torah, and that was scanning it into a computer. They came up with a program, they came up with a mahalach, that of course checking a Sefer Torah is of course the best done through a human being, but it takes a very long time, and also a human being can make mistakes because he's not being vigilant the whole time. So they came up with a mahalach that put it through a scanner machine. The computer screen will, so to speak, scan it. They came up with a program that the computer will recognize if there is, for example, two letters that are touching, or if there's a missing letter, or something similar to that. Obviously, it can't tell necessarily every single shita between the different types of skivas, Beisosef, Velish, whatever, Arizal. Maybe nowadays it can, I don't know, but then it couldn't. It was just to give the basic idea, and it was like an extra check that they did to a Sefer Torah. So the shaila was as follows, and this is what they posed to Goin Reb Shlomo Zalman Zatzal. They said, Rebbe, are you allowed to do this during the week of Adar? They're not talking about Shabbos Kodesh, but their question was, are you allowed to do this, or is there a problem of mechika, of being moichek, of erasing Hashem's name, meaning that if Hashem's name is on the screen, when the Sefer Torah is going through, Vayidab Hashem al Moshe Lema, and the Hashem is obviously Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's Hashem's name, it's going in the screen. If it's going in the screen, it's then going to come off from the screen, because you have to go along, and therefore you are erasing Hashem's name. So I'm not going into now the sugya of writing or erasing Hashem's name. It's a great sugya, maybe one time we have to discuss that, but upon him, the shaila that I want to bring to you is that considered to be ksiva? Do we say that something on a screen is hilchas ksiva? Maybe you could be machalik between hilchas ksiva legabe sefer Torah and hilchas Shabbos, Melacha machshavas osra Torah. There are lots of different ways that maybe you could use this tshuva, for or against. The Meister of Shlomo Zalman wanted to say, at least legabe hilchas sefer Torah mechikas Hashem's name, that it is not a problem d'oraisa of ksiva in that case, because at the end of the day, Reb Shlomo Zalman answered. Again, it's not so again nowadays, because now they've changed it. Maybe in certain places they still have it. But Shlomo Zalman said, if you're going to say that it is ksiva, then how are you using the water on Shabbos? And everyone's like, huh? What's using the water got to do with this? And the answer is, because at the outside of a person's house, often they'll have a meter. And the meter turns and is generated by the usage of the water inside the house. So every time you lift up the faucet, then it turns the wheel, which could change the numbers, which could change the digits, which all sorts of ramifications happen. So Reb Shlomo Zalman said, well, if that's not ksiva, that's not ksiva. So Reb Shlomo Zalman wanted to say that generally speaking, that's not considered to be ksiva. And it seemed like Reb Shlomo Zalman was medamer it to Shabbos, because he said, if not, how are you using that on Shabbos? So obviously, what's that?
Who says that's not ksiva?
Reb Shlomo Zalman.
No, and he says that the meter is not.
That's right. Now you could come along and say it's a grama, it's loinichale, it's a million other reasons why. Again, there's definitely yesh l'chalik, and we're not going to go now into the Ian of Reb Shlomo Zalman's tshuva to see how it can be chalik. But I wanted to bring it to the olam just to understand that such a shaila was posed a while back about this particular shaila. So according to that, Chesky wants to know, what about taking a picture on Shabbos Kodesh? What is the halacha of taking a picture? And of course, we're not discussing now the issue of muktzah, the issue of electricity, and all the other shailas that come along together with using a camera. But let's leave that to the side and only discuss the shaila of ksiva, because we're going to see how this builds up to where it is negeya to someone who does not use a camera on Shabbos Kodesh. Now we'll start with the old-fashioned cameras, which are the cameras that had a actual negative inside, right, which was open, and every time you took a picture, you didn't see anything apart from when you took out the reel, the little piece, the little round thing, the little cylinder afterwards, right? And then you send it off to I don't know if anyone remembers this, but you would send it off to a company, and the company would go into a dark room and they would open it and they would make it, and therefore they would send it back to you, right? I remember as a kid being excited to get the packages in the mail of all the pictures that we took. Now we can actually see the pictures that we took. So what about that shaila? So that shaila was discussed, and be'etzem it comes from a Rambam, Tzvidov. Comes from a Rambam, where the Rambam says like this. The Rambam says, Hatzot tzura chayiv mishum kosev. That means, when a person makes an image, he's chayiv mishum ksiva. Reb Moshe has a tshuva in Igros Moshe, Chelik Daled in Chaim, Simon Mem, where he paskins again, such a shaila is an Issa Da'oraisa, Mishum Ksiva, the Minchas Yitzchak, the Shmir Shabbos, and others as well, that it is avada considered to be a Ksiva Da'oraisa, even if you don't see it. Meaning, when I take the picture, I didn't see anything. It's the film on the inside. And therefore, it gets developed afterwards. They all consider that to be Ksiva. Interesting that how Tzvi brings a tshuva, that he wants to bring a raya for the Gemara in Gittin, that is not a problem of Ksiva. All right, that we're already not going into, all the different things in that case. Okay, so it could be enough kamina, by the way, if a person is working in a hospital, he's doing x-rays for a choila, is this Sekonos Nefashos? Is it not Sekonos Nefashos? I have to ask Dubi at a different time, but that will be the shaila in that case. Moving on, Rabbi Isai, okay, because obviously that's one of the shailas. The other shaila is, Lemaisa, what about the person in the picture? Meaning, let's say I'm not taking the picture. I'm just at the Kosev, and I have some Chinese people there with their cameras, and they're like, oh, would you pose for the picture? Is posing for a picture considered to be anything like Messiah L'Tva Aveira? I'm helping someone doing an Aveira. So you could say they're a goy, say that Mir La'akim. Is that a Mir La'akim? Is that Remiza? How does that work? So there is actually a Balatanya in Shulchan Aruch about the Heilige Balatanya brings down, we pass the Messiah aim by mamish. That means if you do helping that has no mamoshes to it, so it's okay. But he only paskins that way, it's okay. But mokim choyle, here's not mokim choyle. So actually you have to be machmeh. So there are different shitas when it comes to this case. The Shalom Mitzvah Ba'alacha brings down Lemaisa that it's mutter. There's no Melacha Bechlal. There's no reason why I can't pose for a picture. Goys take a picture on Shabbat. Let it take a picture of me. What do I care? What's the big deal in that case? The Sefer Minchas Yontiv, the Nishma Shabbos brings down that in Tshuvas that he holds to be machmeh. There's definitely what to be machmeh in that case over there. I think I asked, if I remember correctly, I asked Hagon Rebbe Zul Obach such a case in that case, that the shaila over here, and Rebbe Zul Obach told me that it's not, it's not nice to pose. A guy's take a picture of you. You don't have to stop anything. You don't have to do anything different. But to pose for the picture, that Lamaisa, he says you shouldn't do. Rafal Zatzal also, I asked about this shaila, and he said once again, it's no Issa B'chlal. What are you doing? You're not asking him, you're not helping him. But like, as a zilzal maybe to start posing different poses on Shabbos, there's a zilzal involved over there. Issa, avada, there is not an Issa of being in a picture that a goy is doing. Now, moving on a few years, Baruch Hashem, we now have digital cameras. We now have digital cameras where there's no film per se inside the camera, but there is a chip that has everything, or an SD card or something like that. And there is also a screen on a digital camera, or a phone, for example. Same idea. A phone has a screen plus a chip on the inside, or an SD card that you can take, develop, and get the photos in that case. So l'chayra, if there's no screen involved, then there would be no ksiva. Why? Because I'm taking a picture, it goes right into the chip on the inside, there's no image whatsoever, nothing can be seen from that, from the outside, and therefore there's be'etzem no ksiva in that case. However, if there's a screen, which I think in most cases by a camera, on a digital camera or a phone, there will be a screen. So if there's a screen, that is considered to be ksiva in this case. Rav Vosner has a tshuva about this very clearly in Shevet HaLevi Chelik Vav Simon Lamed Vav. He calls it, by the way, ksiva d'oraisa. He doesn't even consider it to be, he calls it to be meskayim, he calls it to be, and it's definitely not a grama. By the way, big nafkamina, and that would be cholamoid. Right, I was zocher to be once by a guy Nagodl Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal on Cholamoid, and he was very makpid that no one should take pictures on Cholamoid. Why? Ksiva. There's Issa Ksiva on Cholamoid, professional way. He held this was professional. He held it was Osta. It was very makbid. The Gabar, no pictures. Cholamoid, Reb Chaim was makbid, no pictures. Why? Because there's a Ksiva involved. Mimela, according to that, taking a picture would be Ksiva. Again, Rabbi Sam building up to something, you understand, right? Because again, I don't think we're going to be taking pictures on Shabbos, so it's not really enough Kamina. But by the way, asking a goy to take a picture, for example, on Shabbos, if a person has, this is very Nageya, if a person has, let's say a person has a catering company and he makes Azar Festa Kiddush Shabbos morning and he asks a goy to take a picture because of Shtetzach, you know, if you don't have a memory of it, then no one knows that you did it. So therefore, he wants to have a nice memory of the Kiddush and he wants to post it on various platforms. And is he allowed to ask? I know a caterer, by the way, that did that. I know a caterer that asked the goy to make a picture on Shabbos of the beautiful display, whatever it was. He was very excited to get the picture after Shabbos, and believe it or not, it didn't come out. Maisa Shohayi told me. It never came out, so I don't know why, but that's how it works. But to ask a goy could be a shayla kundra vazon if it's a daraisa, which absolutely no heter. Not even that makes a difference if it's a drabon, also not. But kaponim, just to know, that would be considered to be a daraisa. Now the question over here now, more for us, is being in a video camera on a surveillance camera. This is monageya. Meaning, walking in front of a camera where there are screens, security screens, surveillance cameras, CCTV, all of these things, outside buildings, front doors, inside buildings, all sorts of places. What's the halacha in such a case? Is a person allowed or not allowed? Do we say that lamaisa, it is considered to be ksiva, because at the end of the day there's a screen and my image is on that screen and therefore people call it ksiva? Or do we say there's no mamoshes here, I'm moving from 1 minute to the next minute, so yeah, I'm in the screen 1 second, but the next second I'm out the screen? How do you consider that to be ksiva in that case? So Rav Vazna has a tshuva and Shevet Alevi again, Vov Lamed Zayin, Yud Samach, other places as well. He considered it to be a din ksiva, even though on the screen he says it's a combination of tiny little dots that are constantly replacing itself and changing and everything else. Zuk Rav Vazna, this is derech ksiva. People call it ksiva, and therefore avada, it could be'etzem be miskayim, and therefore yesh chashash issa Torah is the lashon of Rav Vazna. Rav Elyashiv also, by the way, brings down, and he seems to go with the same mahalach of Rav Vazna, Rav Nissim Karelitz. Rav Shlomo Zalman wanted to tie it's not miskayim, so therefore it's an issa d'Rabbanan in that case, and therefore it comes out l'maisa that many gedolim held that going and having a camera and having a screen is a shaila of an issa d'oraisa of the person being in the screen in that case. Rav Moshe wanted to say that if you have no shaykhs to it, for example, if you're walking on the street and they happen to have outside on the street security cameras everywhere, it's not my problem. And therefore Rav Moshe wanted to say, I'm allowed to go into that area, it's a psikration like ichbaslei, it's einem eskayim, Rav Moshe wanted to say, and therefore it's definitely a mokim to be makel. The Debet Sin Rabban Ben Moshe, Paskins Lamaisa, Issa Gomo to go in any place, even if there's no Issa, als Ksiva, he tinies is an Issa of Zilzul Shabbos, so therefore a person should be makbid on there. There are poskim who are makel, because they held there's no problem, it's Einem Eskayim, I don't know about it, I don't care about it. So then the shaila is, that's on you going inside the screen, or being in an area where there is cameras that have a screen. By the way, when there's no screen, then this whole shaila doesn't really begin. In other words, let's say you're in a place that have video cameras, and again, many places have cameras for security purposes or whatever, and now you're being filmed l'maisa on Shabbos Kodesh, but there's no screen, meaning it goes into a chip, which is basically what happens in most cases. It goes into a chip, and that chip is, so to speak, recording. If I want, you could rewind the film, so to speak, and you could go back on the video camera and see what happened. Now, that doesn't mean that on Shabbos I was on a screen. I wasn't. In most cases, there's no screen, which case 100% there's no shaila whatsoever in going such a place. Then I don't have to worry. What I'm talking about here is going in front of a video camera where there is a screen, and my image is going to be projected on that screen, and on that Rav Vazna, many poskim held, is a major shaila and should be avoided, which means, of course, if I can avoid the area, I should. If I cannot avoid the area, and I have to, if I'm sleeping there, if I'm eating there, if I'm going there and I've got no other choice, or it is made for security purposes, which, by the way, very important in many places in Eretz Yisrael and in Chutz La'aretz to have security cameras. There's a security guard. There's people watching it. People know who's at the door. They need to know what's going on. If it's done for security purposes, abada. There's no problem with that whatsoever. It's definitely a mokim to be makel. You can rely on the poskim that say that it's not really ksiva, and if b'shas atchak, you can definitely be makel in that case. But Al Kaponim, if you have a house, and you should know this, that if you have a house, I don't think in private houses necessarily you need to have video cameras to see who's at the front door for security purposes. You have a front door that's locked, that's closed, no one's breaking it down, no one's smashing it open. You want to have video cameras if Chas v'Shalom something happens to know to do that? What's that? I'm talking about America. I'm talking about America. Right? Again, unless somebody tells me of a specific place that I need the screen on Shabbos, that's something else. Again, Mexico, I don't know, maybe there are places. But in a regular, Mexico is now called America, no? It's not called Mexico anymore, right? I don't know. Anyway, the point is that it could be that there's no heter for you to switch on the screen. Keep the recording on. Chas v'Shalom, something happens, you have a recording of it. But to have the screen on just because it's convenient for you to see who's at the door on Shabbos afternoon, I don't know if there's a heter for such a case over there. And by the way, this results in a major shaila of, for example, going to the old city. Right? I discussed this with a Gaon Hagadol Rebbe Zul Orbach Shlita at length, because Vada Rabbonim always advertise that if you give a certain amount to Vada Rabbonim, they will send rabbis to daven at the Kosev for 40 days. So I said to Rebbe Zil, Rebbe, 40 days include Shabbos. So if it includes Shabbos, you've got people at the Kosev. I said, what's the problem? So I said like this, we all know that there's, I'm going back when I spoke to him then, I haven't researched it recently, so I don't know. Things have changed. But at the time, a few years ago, there were 140 cameras around the old city, right? And there are only 8 screens. And those 8 screens were constantly flicking between different cameras, so that the security team that were watching, which of course was very, very important in the old city, they will be able to constantly check. They can't have 140 screens. Like, who can look at that? So they had 8 screens, and those 8 screens were constantly flicking between one and the other. So the shaila is, it's like a real suffix if I'm even going to be on the screen, right? Because I'm going past the place in the old city. Who said I'm even going to be on the screen in that case? Rebbe Zil Orbach told me, B'Shem Hishveh, Rebbe Elyashiv was machmeh. That's what he told me. Rebbe Elyashiv was machmeh in this shaila and held that you should be machmeh. So he said in a Chanami, in certain place, they don't have cameras, there are people that are there anyway, so they're anyway going to the coastal, whatever it is. There are different neterim that they used over there. But again, Rabbi Sai, if you're in a place where you know there could be cameras, even if there's a screen you don't know about, you don't care about it, no shaykhs you, avadi you can go there on Shabbos. What I'm saying is, if you have the ability to switch off the screen before Shabbos to make sure that there's no ksiv on the screen, that you should do. Be'ez Hashem, next time we shall continue B'siyata D'Shmaya, the screen.